Well, if you missed the data session that I did, I still have a little prop beside me. If anyone's interested, we use Legos to help us get through
I
this.
dropped mine. Wait.
You do? We both do them at our desk.
I have to say, this was not planned.
This was not planned at all.
We just both love our minifigs that much.
They motivate us to get through the day, that's for sure.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Absence Minded. You're here with Brycie and Christine, where we are creating a safe space to talk about all things absence and disability accommodations. If Christine and I look extra fresh and excitable today, it's because we are coming at you fresh from the National DMEC annual conference, where we, for a whole week, got to experience tailored content, got to meet up with our industry friends and acquaintances in a setting that is absolutely 100% dedicated to what we love and what our Absence Minded podcast is all about. And so we wanted to kick off today's session just by sharing with you a couple of our kind of favorite moments or takeaways from the National DMEC conference. And so I will go first. I will just say that my favorite part, because I am such a social butterfly, is all of the really great networking and visiting that we get to do with our peers in this industry. And some of my favorite moments are just having the ability to sit in the round tables that DMEC offers, which are dedicated times and spaces for folks to get together in one room and talk about a specific topic together so that we can share, employers really can share ideas and challenges with each other and bounce stuff off each other. And it's a really unique opportunity to be able to do that with the people who are sitting in the same chairs that we are. So Christine, for example, hosted a roundtable session on how to leverage DMEC's new absence exemplar benchmarking tool that they just rolled out, in the last couple of years, and how to really level up your leave programs by leveraging those benchmarking resources. And there's always roundtable sessions on things like insourcing versus outsourcing, ADA accommodations, and again, just it's such a wonderful opportunity for us all to just sit and bounce ideas off of each other. How about you, Christine?
Love it. Well, if you missed the data session that I did, I still have a little prop beside me. If anyone's interested, we use Legos to help us get through
I dropped mine. Wait.
You do? We both do them at our desk.
I have to say, this was not planned.
This was not planned at all.
We just both love our minifigs that much.
They motivate us to get through the day, that's for sure. But beyond playing with Legos, a couple of things that I did really love. So I always love it when DMEC brings states with PFML programs to do presentations. So we had representatives from both Colorado and Delaware this year, which was really great. But they also had one of my favorite sessions, and this was a little bit unique. I really got some good takeaways from this, is they had a panel of state legislators and policymakers throughout the U.S. to talk about the status of paid or a federal paid leave program. So sadly, the United States remains the only industrialized nation without a paid leave program. And one thing that I learned is that family and medical insurance has been introduced in each legislative session since 2013, and we haven't gotten anywhere. So one of the things that's underway right now is there is currently, and I found this interesting, a PFL working group, and it's comprised of both Republicans and Democrats. Look at us, we're working together, we're being progressive. And they introduced something called the Interstate Paid Leave Action Network. It's called iPlan for short. And what this is intended to do, so it's not necessarily introduction of federal paid leave, but what it's intended to do is try and simplify or harmonize existing PFML programs. this sounds complicated, but its goal is to create a policy standard for common terms like what is our base period? What is the definition of a family member? It's also looking to create some administrative standards such as like record keeping and notice requirements. The way that it sits right now is it's voluntary. And again, this is just a working group. We don't have anything that's passed or enacted at this point. But I did find it really exciting to hear a little bit about things that are currently underway and may have some sort of impact at a federal level with regards to paid leave. So it's fun.
That is fun. And I'm judging by the direction this is taking that you've probably all picked up that this is a little bit of a round 2 conversation discussion from our very first episode, which was pretty geared around paid family and medical leave, and will be again today. It is something that our customers are in the trenches with. So something that's top of mind for Christine and I. I will promise you, though, that in upcoming episodes, we're going to tackle additional absence and disability related topics above and beyond paid family and medical leave. But for the purposes of today, I think we have something specific that we want to just chat about that a lot of you struggle with, a lot of you, especially who are kind of newly entering a paid family and medical leave state or working in a state that is on the cusp of enacting or going live with paid family and medical leave.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to spend, like Brycie said, we want to spend a little bit of time talking about the pros and cons of allowing supplementation with either like company paid leave or short-term disability with a mandatory PFML program. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what are some of the states that have decided to make that extra difficult for us, because there's always got to be a few in the mix. And before we get into this, I think I just want to call out that most states with a mandatory PFML program, they are requiring that employees have the choice. They are saying employees have the option to choose to supplement their mandatory PFML program with available PTO, vacation, sick. So please go into this conversation knowing that. But for the states that give us the option, for the states that tell us, employer, you can require your employees to supplement their PFML with their available PTO, vacation, we did want to talk a little bit kind of about the pros and cons of each of those approaches. So let's talk about supplementation and why that is potentially a good thing for our employees. So go ahead, Brycie.
Sorry, I think it's just worth saying again, like how each state approaches this is one of the areas in which paid family and medical leave across the states is like maddeningly varied. So it is important that you understand when you're thinking about this in the paid family and medical leave states where you have employees, that you understand that state's particular rules on top up and supplementation, even how disability plans work in that particular state, because there are variances. We're gonna talk today in generalities, assuming mostly like that supplementation is allowed in that state, that we as employers probably get the first choice of whether to allow supplementation, and that then the employee gets the choice on whether to take us up on that. So those are kind of some basic assumptions we're making as we're going to talk you through some of the recommendations around how to approach this.
So why do we want to allow our employees to supplement their PFML benefits? So number one, it's going to enable them to get 100% of their wages. So that's going to create just a better leave experience for our employees. It may not be as much of a hardship for them to be off of work. It's also going to draw down some of those paid time off banks. So if we're not allowing that supplementation, that PTO bucket may sit there and continue to accrue, or it's going to stay level, which is going to give that employee a bucket of time when they come back from work to potentially use for other reasons as well. It also allows us to keep benefit premium deduction occurring seamlessly. So instead of having employees' benefit premiums billed in arrears or potentially having to send them some sort of letter and collect payment, we're going to continue to be able to make those automatic withdrawals on a pre-tax basis when we're supplementing those PFML benefits with some paid time off. What are some of the bad things about it?
It provides
Potentially,
100% income replacement.
I know, exactly. Not getting 100% of pay. So just the inverse of obviously what we were talking about.
Well,
There is,
even I
oh,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think it's just like providing 100% income replacement. There's like a couple of different ways to look at it. What a pro for employees. But when we're talking about driving behaviors we want to see from our employee population, which I know I talk about a lot. I use that phrasing a lot when I talk about how to integrate with paid family and medical leave. Providing someone with 100% income replacement is not exactly creating an incentive for them to return to work as quick as they're able. And so that could be considered a con of supplementation, is that we're potentially disincentivizing folks from returning to work as quickly as they otherwise could, by covering them at 100% there.
We also have a little bit of a risk of potentially overpaying an employee. So a lot of states are not giving us visibility into what that weekly benefit amount is. So a lot of times we have to provide an estimate. And a lot of states also mandate that employees cannot receive over 100% of their pay between the PFML benefit and the supplementation of other programs. So we're not guessing. A lot of states do give us calculators. Minnesota gives us a calculator. I believe Washington gives us a calculator, but it's still an estimate. So that's one thing to potentially keep in mind. And then it also requires, and this is just absolutely the biggest pain point for every single one of our clients, is there's manual intervention. There's typically not a way to automatically provide X dollars to a paycheck each week. It requires manual work to do that.
Yeah, my heart goes out to anyone facing this decision. And there's so many of us out there that do this practice. Anyone who is currently relying on your employees or your employees' managers to enter pay for that person when they're on a leave of absence, who has made that job either the employees directly or their supervisor. When we're in PFML land and we're talking about supplementation and we're talking about the fact that essentially becomes a very individualized calculation, because the state benefit is a very individualized calculation, that calls for a major change in the structure of how you administer leaves. It calls for the centralization of pay for employees on leave. And so many of us who are entering PFML for the first time are not quite there with the administration of pay or collecting of intermittent absences. It's so often we see that lives with employees and managers and timekeepers. And the fact that this supplementation process becomes so manual really calls us to centralize that to a dedicated function, like potentially your leave team or a specialized sector of your payroll team. And that's tough. That's a tall order.
So for our states that allow us to, again, as an employer, make that choice and tell our employees, hey, we're actually not going to allow you to supplement your PFML. Some pros and cons of that, I want to spend a few minutes on that. Just the inverse of what Brycie said. So if we're not allowing supplementation, then we don't have to do that complex calculation. Math is not my friend. I cannot help my daughters with math any longer. It's something I'm outkicking my coverage. So it is very, very difficult. But you're avoiding that risk of overpayment. So you have that going for you. And your employees might be incentivized to return to work a little bit sooner if they're not receiving full pay. But on the flip side, your employees may not have as good of an experience. Maybe they cannot live on the amount that they're getting from that PFML benefit. Most states are pretty generous. That's great to hear, but they've got caps. So it may be difficult for your employees to stay off work for the desired time frame that they would like if they don't have the option to supplement. Paid time off might continue to accrue depending upon how you have that set up within your organization. You're probably going to have to do some manual administration for your healthcare, dental care, those premiums, or let them build in arrears. And your employees are going to have a bucket of time to come back to potentially, use PTO after they've been out for a qualifying PFML reason.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is for my subset of employer friends out there who make the hard decision not to allow supplementation, it usually comes down to just a known lack of administrative capabilities there. Like we go into this knowing we don't have the chops to be able to make this individualized calculation. We can't figure out how to automate this in our payroll system. And we just know that if we try to take this on, especially in the early days of a new program, we may fail. And so I think it is a fear of failure on the administrative side that truly drives that decision. Especially because one of the other major cons that I've seen play out in real life is the noise that your employee population makes when the only income they're getting is from the state paid family and medical leave program. Knowing the delays that we often see in the early days of these programs, employees are going 8, 10 plus weeks without pay, and the screaming that results from that is raises to the level that even your C-suite will hear about it. So I would say that's just one con of this approach, is to just anticipate and be ready for the noise that it will create in your employee population, who and for folks that are facing real challenges and hardship as a result of that administrative decision.
Yeah. When you are going to allow supplementation, Brycie, I want to talk about a few different approaches that we see here. We've got 4 of them. There's a couple that I'm going to call out, and I'm going to say, do not do this. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. But the reason that we're going to talk about it is simply because it's a question that we're asked. So option 1, and we talked about this during pros and cons, is you estimate that state benefit and you supplement. That's what we recommend.
Like from day one, right? Like
yes.
we're not waiting for anything. There's no decision we need to get back. That employee requests a leave, tells us they want to supplement. And from day one of us having knowledge of that, we are calculating that supplemental benefit and getting it paid out on our normal payroll schedule, regardless of what's happening over here with this paid leave benefit.
Your other option is requiring proof of payment. So that would enable you to have the precision in determining what the supplementation should be. But to what Brycie was just talking about, and I don't want to name names, but it rhymes with bore again, some states have taken up to 6 weeks to process payments for employees. And in that situation, you're going to have employees waiting for a long time to get any compensation whatsoever, whether it be supplementation from you or a benefit from the state. The next one is and friends, please don't do this. This is just, again, we don't advise it, but we're asked, so we're going to talk about it, is paying 100% upfront and then recouping the overpayment. So I get why this comes up. We're looking out for our employees. We do not want them to go any period of time without receiving compensation. However, what is going to happen is when that PFML benefit is received, you're going to have the administrative burden of collecting overpayment. And there's certain laws that come into play here, like state wage payment and collection acts. They're going to dictate how you can recoup that overpayment. And this path just scares me. It scares me. I don't recommend it. I understand that we're coming from a positive place, but it's a no for me.
Okay, here's where I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, because there's like a very narrow situation where I've seen this work like sort of kind of okay. And that is where there are some states that allow in their private plan rules the opportunity for an employer to essentially pay their employee salary continuation when they go out and start their leave, and for the private plan administrator to, instead of cutting the check and paying the employee for the paid family and medical leave benefits, those states allow that private plan administrator to reimburse the employer for the employee's paid family and medical leave benefits, knowing that that employer had committed to paying 100% salary continuation. In those rare instances, I would say this is where we see that concept of just paying them 100% out of the gate and figuring it out later. That can work okay. It's still administratively very heavy process, because then you're stuck with like switching out time codes and putting accruals back in balances potentially. Like it's still super messy. And we're also seeing on the, at least the private plan fully insured carrier side, challenges with the automation of this reimbursement process that creates some errors and a lot of just need for close partnership with your partner there. But for those of you who are like, I just want them to be paid, I want them to be paid timely, I want them to be paid up front, I just wanted to plant that little seed that is one avenue where it's a maybe for me.
Makes sense. And in the last one, and this is another one where I say, don't really advise this, but we're trying to provide a positive experience for our employees, is allowing that employee to select the supplementation amount. Now, this doesn't mean that an employee can be like, oh, I want 120 hours of PTO in my paycheck this week. No, that's not how that works. Because again, most states require that employees not receive over 100% between the two sources. But maybe you have an employee who wants to just plug in, I don't know, 6, 8, I almost said 6, 7. Sorry, this is like what the kids do.
7.
I heard it all week, and I'm very over it. Again, we did not rehearse this. I don't know where I'm coming up with this. Oh my gosh. But anyways, allowing your employees to pick a supplementation amount, that is going to be very administrative burdensome for you. You're going to have to collect an individualized choice from employees each time. There's really not going to be any automation associated with that approach. So that's another one where we say, probably not. Our best recommendation, again, is to estimate the state benefit and supplement from there. So Brycie, I know we kind of talked about some different approaches here, but why don't you talk to us a little bit about certain states, and I think we're going to call them gotcha states. We can rebrand it, but certain states who have made the supplementation option for employers and employees especially difficult.
Yeah, I think I can just cover this at a high level and tell you that to find out if you are dealing with a state who's going to make the concept of supplementation challenging for you, what you really want to look at is like how interested is that particular state in getting into our kitchen, our back shop on how we're paying our employees. So when we think about states like California, Washington, Minnesota is going to be one of these states that say, hey, guys, we need you to tell us what you're providing to employees as far as supplemental benefit. There's a reason that we at the state would like access to that information. That's a pretty good sign right there that it's going to be a little bit more challenging. That supplementation piece is going to be a little bit more challenging. My music to my ears is with states like Oregon who have said, listen, guys, here's the rule. Here's the supplementation rule. Can't get more than 100% of pay between a combination of what we're paying and what you're paying. We're going to pay what we're going to pay employers. Okay. So you just follow the rules. Here's some guardrails for you. Have a nice day. Those are the states where I think we have we have it a little bit easier there, because when the state gets into our kitchen and gets into the business of trying to understand what we're paying, that means that they might respond and adjust what they're doing based on we're doing. And it's sometimes like unintended consequences occur. Like if an employee, the state of Washington, for example, asks an employee, are you receiving income replacement from your employer? And that employee says, why, yes, I received 2 hours of PTO last week. Even though that was designed to be a supplemental benefit, if that employee is not educated enough to know to not give the state that information or to say, yes, I did, but it was supplemental benefits, then the state could adjust their benefit amount to essentially offset for what you were paying, which you were trying to use as a supplemental benefit. So that's really the trick there, is like trying to understand how much is the state trying to get into my business when it comes to supplementation. And then that's a pretty good indicator for how painful this might be in any given state.
I love it. What a fun topic to dig into on. We're recording on a Monday, so I'm going to say Monday morning. We're kicking off our Monday mornings with some light conversation. Oh, well, this was fun. Brycie, any other thoughts before we just talk about a couple things that might be coming up in our future?
No, I'll just say, like, this is always a really big decision point that we spend a lot of time talking through with our customers who are working on paid family and medical leave preparedness. So hopefully for those of you out there who might be tuning in and may not be working with us directly, like, this kind of hopefully helps shape how you might approach this decision if you're moving into a state like Minnesota or Maryland or Delaware, knowing that this is that we're running full throttle towards the go live of some of these new states. So just hope this helped.
Well, we started off talking about DMEC. We're going to end talking about DMEC. We're not sponsored by DMEC. We've been saying them a lot, but we're so excited. So for those of you who were not able to attend their in-person conference earlier in August in Washington, D.C., there is a virtual conference on October 1st, and it's about a half day. They will have the 4 highest rated sessions from their main conference as part of the virtual conference. And shameless plug, a session that I did with 2 other colleagues, it was one of the 4 highest rated. It's the Absence Eras Tour. I will be wearing a gold sequence jacket. We will have some Taylor Swift music. I hope that does not scare you away, but it's very fun. It's really a fun topic, and we're so honored to be able to do it again virtually. We hope that you're able to make it, and we really appreciate you tuning into our podcast, episode 2.
Thanks, guys.
The information provided in this podcast is for general information and education purposes only. It's not intended to be and should not be construed as legal, financial, or human resources advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and policies regarding leave management vary by jurisdiction and may change over time. Listeners should consult with a qualified attorney, HR professional, or relevant expert for advice specific to their situation. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of their employers or any affiliated organizations.